Well, J. Cole actually came to San Quentin to visit you.
Yeah.
What was the story behind that?
So he came in with Scott Budnick, the producer of Hangover movies, and that was pretty much a surprise visit. And he came in, he kicked it with everybody. You know, he rapped some unreleased materials, and extremely humble cat. You know, he really looked out on so many levels. And you know, the funny thing was he actually had a show in Sweden on the 1st of October, and that was also my son's birthday. So, you know, he looked out and even and sent my son some tickets for the show. It was just weird how that just coincided on the same day. But really humble individual, spoke a lot about, you know, that he had friends that were locked up, and he spoke about how, you know, he felt the court, you know, the justice system, the way it was basically unfair to people of color. We had all kinds of different conversations. But he's a very deep individual that I respect a lot. And just the fact that he showed up and just walked the yard with no security and just, you know, he felt like he was just one of us. You know, he didn't make no, you know, difference on anyone. He was just like, you know, like a regular dude.
And then Common came to visit you as well.
Yeah. Common came in and we sat down for a few hours and I played him the mixtape. And we talked about some collaborations that we could do in the future where he's involved and other people are involved. Definitely a cool cat as well, super humble, and you know gave positive feedback. Like he was really feeling his songs, and we walked around the prison as well. I showed him around and I showed him the sizes of the cells. We walked the yard, and he was actually challenged to a basketball game as he walked the yard, and he took on the challenge and had a one-on-one with one of the guys on the basketball court, and you know that was appreciated, and it was big for everybody at San Quentin because you know stuff like that normally doesn't, you know, it doesn't happen in prison, so that was definitely dope.
Okay, then I'm going to assume that Kim Kardashian did not walk around the yard with you because that would have caused a total riot in San Quentin.
Well, you know, we walked from the gate when she came in. We walked in, and at the time it was morning, so it wasn't a lot of people out. But word spread like wildfire that she was in my studio, and by the time we left the studio, it was just crazy. It was just people everywhere. Uh, Not only incarcerated people, but also nurses, CEOs that had left their posts. It was chaos. So actually, I was supposed to take her past the yard and down to the media center, but the warden shut everything down because of the chaos. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she actually recorded a video, which we'll play right now, of her actually talking about you and the project as well.
I definitely know that right now, everyone at San Quentin and all of the other jails and prisons are going through such a crisis, and that COVID is, you know, these jails and prisons are such a hot spot for COVID. So I really urge all the lawmakers to try to safely and effectively reduce the number of people in these jails and prisons.
Okay, so here you are doing 15 to life in prison. And 11 years in, the governor of California seems to take an interest in your case. Now, for everyone who's really watching this, who doesn't really understand how this works, me included, how do you get on the governor's radar as a prisoner?
So Gavin Newsom had visited San Quentin when he was lieutenant governor. And I performed at the Last Mile graduation. Last Mile is a program in San Quentin that's run by Beverly Parenti and Chris Redlitz. It's basically a program where inmates can pitch their ideas to VCs, venture capitalist firms, and And so he had came to one of those graduations, and I had performed there. And he walked up to me actually afterwards. That was the first time I met the governor. Second time, I had a TEDx performance where I performed my song Freedom, and he was actually in the audience as well. This is all way before he became the governor. So it really hadn't anything to do with that, but that was his first time of him, hearing about me. A lot of the volunteers and the people that came in through the tours started talking about it, and there was some media in California that had covered the mixtape. So word started getting around, and the commutation is a long process. It's something that you file for, and the government basically takes a look at your case. They look at your prison behavior. They look at what you do in there, and they look at your rehabilitation. They look at everything, pretty much all different factors. So I had got word that a lot of people had spoke up for me, everything from staff to volunteers to politicians to celebrities as well. A lot of people had heard about what I did. And, I don't know exactly how how exactly he reached his ears, but there were a lot of people that was supporting me and backing me up.
Okay. And then Governor Newsom gave a commutation of sentence to you. He actually wrote a letter, and we have a copy of the letter here. And I'm just going to skip around a little bit. But in the letter, the governor wrote, Mr. Jassy, who is now 45 years old and has been incarcerated for 11 years. In his application for clemency, Mr. Jassy expressed a deep remorse for his crime, writing, I realize that the night I took Mr. Osnes's life, I forfeited my right to freedom, and that there is no way anything I do going forward that will make up for my actions. He went on to say, while in prison, Mr. Jassy has demonstrated a genuine commitment to his rehabilitation. He participated in self-help programming and is currently enrolled in college courses. Mr. Jassy has been involved in San Quentin's media program and has earned the respect of correctional staff. A sponsor of the music program praised Mr. Jassy for his positive contributions to the program and his work with youthful offenders. Goes on to say, Mr. Jassy committed a serious crime that ended the life of Mr. Osnes. Since then, he has committed himself to his rehabilitation. I've carefully considered and weighed the evidence of Mr. Jassy's positive conduct in prison and his good prospects for successful community reentry. I have concluded that Mr. Jassy is ready to be released on parole. The act of clemency for Mr. Jassy does not minimize or forgive his conduct or the harm it caused. It does recognize the work he has done since to transform himself. Therefore, I, Gavin Newsom, Governor of the State of California, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and statutes of the State of California, do hereby commute the sentence of David Jassy to release him on parole. When you got that letter, how did you feel?
Well, I didn't get the letter first. I actually was asleep in my cell, and my cellie woke me up and told me that they had called me on the podium. And I basically went down there, had no clue what it was about. I met my other friend, Fanon, who at the time had 210 years to life, by the stairs. And there was another guy who was also a lifer. And it was just us three standing right there. And I had no clue, really. My friend was like, you know what this is about? It's that commutation. But I didn't really believe it. And then pretty much they just took us to a different place. It was a barrack. And they were basically telling us that, this is going to hit the 5 o'clock news. And we basically want to tell you before it happens. So they let us in one by one. And I just seen my boy Fanon, who had 210 years to life for robbing the McDonald's. And he went inside and he just came out and was just like, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. And I was like, what happened? He's like, man, commutation, immediate release within 5 days. And then me and the other guy was basically just sitting there looking at each other like, whoa. And then eventually I went in and they told me the news over the phone. on a speaker. And yeah, I don't think I can put that feeling into words, because I was asleep just 10 minutes earlier, being a lifer, and now it's just like, wow, immediate release. And immediately, my head starts spinning. I just felt grateful and started thanking God. It's unreal. It's really surreal, and it's really surreal to even be here in Stockholm talking to you right now. I'm still trying to adjust myself to this situation. But it's all kind of emotions. There's also like a bit of survivor's guilt, because there's a lot of good men in there that are left behind too. So a lot of those, you become real close. You get real brothers, real friends in there, and just knowing that they have life and knowing that I'm in a different world, different part of the world, it's kind of crazy, because it's it's a huge blessing to be out, but it's also bittersweet because you're leaving a lot of friends behind.
Well, from the outside looking in, when you see these types of situations and you see someone like yourself who is somehow connected to the Kim Kardashians of the world and the J. Coles of the world, you think, okay, was this somebody, pulling a political favor or something of that sort? Was that at all involved in the governor commuting your sentence?
I don't think so, because the commutation was at play way before they even came into the picture. And it doesn't really work like that either. You can't just pull political favors and get somebody out like that. I mean, you can to a certain extent. But there's a lot of guys in prison that have tremendous network and they still can't get out. But yeah, who knows?
When news broke that you were released after 11 years from doing 15 to life, because people have to understand how serious that to life clause is. I've heard of people that got 3 years to life and 30 years later, they are still in that prison cell getting, denied year after year.
Yeah.
So you did less than your minimum sentence. Do you know how the family of the victim feels about this?
I do not. But I can imagine that just them hearing about me is probably bringing up a lot of memories and a lot of pain, of course, which is natural. However, I don't think the pain of anyone who's been going through anything would in any way be lesser because a person is doing time. I believe in retributions, really. The system in America is pretty much based on punishment, but there's no punishment in the world that could ever bring back Mr. Osnes. And the majority of people eventually gets out of prison, even if you have a life sentence, except for unless you're sitting on the condemned row, if you're on death row. And I think one thing that I would say is the benefit with like rehabilitation in prison is, who do you want as your neighbor when they eventually get out? Do you want somebody that actually took their time and actually worked on himself, took self-help groups, or do you want somebody that you just punished and you put in a cage and threw away the key and builds up a lot of anger? And, I think about Mr. Osnes and his family every day. It's not a day that goes by that I don't. I don't consider myself a monster. This is not something that I wanted to happen. If I could, rewind the time, of course, I would rather had, a conversation with Mr. Osnes. The last thing on my mind was that I wanted to kill him. And I can definitely understand the pain they felt. My mom was murdered when I was 17. And I know the pain that I felt when that happened. And that happened on the same day that my sister got married. And we were basically in a car going home. And this was in Italy. And a car rammed us and we, drove into a tree. However, I know that for me personally, I can't speak for Mr. Osnes' family. I can just speak of how I felt towards the people that did it to me, it didn't matter to me what the justice system did to them. I could never get my mom back. And I'm praying that whatever peace or healing they can have, I pray that they will have that. I'm extremely sorry for what I did. I have tremendous remorse. At the same time, I don't want to make it even worse for the family to talk about the family, because even that could be painful for them.
Well, when you were released, were you at that point deported out of America? Because, for example, like I know Shine, and I've interviewed him before. And once he, his prison sentence ended for the shooting that he ended up doing in New York, he was deported out of the U.S. and he can never come back to the U.S. again. He went back to Belize. He can go all around the world, but he just can never come back to the U.S. Do you have a similar situation or no?
Yeah, I do. So I'm back in my native country of Sweden. And, it's a situation where, it's not what I wanted. That's not the reason why I went to the States. I really went there to pursue a career in music. It didn't happen like that. And it's in a very unfortunate situation all the way around. But at the end of the day, a man lost his life. And I'm still here and I'm free. So to me, that's like it's a luxury problem to even be complaining about that. Just the fact that I'm free again. I just feel blessed to be out. I feel blessed to be alive, and I don't take anything for granted. So I appreciate the small things in life.
Well, David Jassy, that's a very strong story that you've laid out. And I really believe, this was something, I have a friend, Shaka Senghor, who went to prison for murdering somebody during a drug deal gone wrong. He ended up doing 20 years. He later got out and wrote a best-selling book about it. And the thing that he pushes the most, which I agree with, is that you can't judge a person's life by their worst action, by their worst moment. And you had a very bad moment. A person died. Your own temper and anger was a factor in that. Although you didn't, try to kill this man, your own reaction caused his death. But that was not your lifestyle leading up to that. You were not a mass murderer. You were not a violent person. You just were, caught in a bad situation. And you did 11 years over this situation. You didn't get away with it.
No.
You suffered. You were in a cage. You didn't get to see your son grow up. The world passed you by. Time stood still during the time that you were in prison. And, it seems like you take responsibility for it. You're not acting like you were the victim in this whole case.
No.
And it seems like you did a lot of good and affected a lot of people's lives positively while you were in there. So I definitely salute you for what you went through and what you're about to go through as well.
I appreciate it. And Shaka Senghor actually came in to San Quentin, and we actually recorded a song together in there with him and, his girlfriend, V. Bozeman. I respect Shaka a lot, and he actually gave me a lot of pointers in how to deal with society afterwards, after prison, and some of the stuff that he went through. And he's definitely, to me, an inspiration. Somebody that spent, I believe, 19 years in solitary confinement to go and to have his own show on the Oprah network and the book, Righting My Wrongs. He's definitely someone that I look up to, and I consider him a good brother. And I love the fact that he just took something that was very bad and he tried to create change and help other people. And that's really what I'm trying to do too. I'm really trying to put out good in the world. I'm definitely not a perfect person, but I know what I can do from here on is at least be conscious of as many of my thoughts as possible and make sure that they actually turn into good. And from that also comes the actions and habits. But yeah, it's, you know, where do you go from here? You know, what do you do with this? You know, this thing we call life. What do you do with the rest of it? And you know, I've decided to really focus on the good and try to put out as much good as possible.
Okay. Well, David Jassy, man, I appreciate you coming in. I wish nothing but the best for you.
All right, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
No doubt. Peace.